On June 21, 2025, U.S. launched coordinated airstrikes in Iran targeting three major nuclear facilities, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan, citing intelligence that Iran was close to weapons-grade capabilities. President Trump called it a spectacular military success, and international reactions ranged from praise by Israel's leaders to UN warnings of escalation. Iranian retaliation, Operation Glad Tidings of Victory. June 23, 2025, around 1939 AST, Iran launched a missile strike dubbed Operation Glad Tidings of Victory at the USL Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the US's largest regional command and logistical hub. Satellite imagery and sources suggest that 14 to 19 missiles were launched. Qatar and the US claim all but one were intercepted or landed harmlessly. Iranian claims vary, some state the same number is used on Iranian facilities. No casualties or substantial damage were reported, though Qatar temporarily closed airspace, and the US Embassy issued a shelter-in-place order. Why Udeid and Why Qatar? Chosen for maximum symbolic impact while minimizing civilian harm, Qatar is a sympathetic regional actor and not a battlefield. The base had been largely vacated of aircraft in advance. Iran reportedly gave advance warning to US and Qatari officials to ensure interception success, emphasizing this was a precise, calibrated response. Strategic calculus behind Iran's strike. Proportional retaliation. Stated by Iranian officials, the strike aimed to mirror the US action exactly, serving both a deterrent and a symbolic balancing act. Signal without escalation. By targeting a major US base but enabling its interception, Iran communicated its willingness and capability to strike US assets without triggering full-scale war. This mirrors Iran's 2020 response after Soleimani's killing, which was carefully modulated. Domestic and regional messaging. Domestically, Iran projected strength, a mighty and successful response. Regionally, by sparing Qatarites and avoiding casualties, Iran sought to prevent alienating Gulf neighbors, many of whom maintain varying degrees of diplomatic and economic ties. 3. Military and regional implications. U.S. Military vulnerability. The incident underscores U.S. bases' susceptibility, even in U.S. allied states. During recent years, Iran-backed proxies launched greater than 180 attacks from October 2023 to November 2024 against U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria. U.S. intelligence now lists major hubs across Qatar, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia as viable Iranian targets. U.S. counter-preparations. Personnel adjustments. Non-essential American staff have been withdrawn from Iraq, Bahrain, Kuwait, and embassy precautions increased. Regional U.S. assets bolstered, additional air defense systems, fighter jets, aircraft carriers, tankers, and 2 B-2 bombers have been deployed to the Gulf and Guam. Strait of Hormuz and maritime security. Iran retains the ability to impact oil routes through the Strait via mines, cyber operations, or Houthi-led proxy attacks in the Red Sea, but has refrained this time to avoid escalating and because Iran's own oil revenue depends on stability. Political and diplomatic fallout. 1. Ceasefire signals. June 24 ceasefire. President Trump announced a ceasefire between Iran and Israel brokered with Qatar's help. Iran's abstention after its strike and Israel's halt of operations marked a de-escalation of direct hostilities. Trump praised Iran's restraint, termed the strike very weak, and emphasized diplomacy. 2. U.S. political debate. Republicans broadly supported the U.S. strikes, Democrats warned of unintended consequences. Iran has warned that any allies assisting Israel could be future targets. Global and regional actors. UN and IAEA urged restraint, warning against eroding the nuclear non-proliferation regime. Gulf states' response. Qatar and Bahrain condemned airspace violations. UAE, Kuwait, and Iraq followed suit with airspace restrictions. What comes next? Scenarios and risks. Scenario description. 1. Sustained de-escalation ceasefire holds. Both sides avoid re-escalation. Diplomacy resumes. Success depends on conditions like Israel halting strikes and the U.S. Iran nuclear dialogue restarting. 2. Proxy intensification. Iran may apply pressure via proxies like Houthis, Hezbollah targeting U.S. assets, shipping, or cyber attacks, low cost but destabilizing. 3. Maritime disruption. Iran could mine or jam navigation in the Gulf to pressure oil markets, though it risks harming its own revenue. For further U.S/Israeli strikes. A new incident may prompt defensive or preemptive strikes. Both sides appear cautious to avoid all-out war. 5. Diplomatic efforts. Qatar and other regional players may facilitate U.S.-Iran talks, aiming for broader Middle East de-escalation. Key variables. Israel's future actions against Iran's core, nuclear versus security sites. U.S. posture, will it reinforce or withdraw from the region? Iran's internal politics, supreme leader selection, hardliner factions, economic pressures. Broader significance. Risk of regional spillover. Even a contained event could catalyze proxy warfare across Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Lebanon. Repercussions for global energy markets. Humanitarian fallout for civilians in proxy-ridden zones. Strategic messaging. Iran has demonstrated precision in limited military response. Readiness to leverage advanced missile systems. Strategic thinking aimed at deterrence, not territory conquest. U.S. strategic dilemma. The U.S. remains challenged by its heavy military footprint. Showing strength while avoiding escalation is a delicate balance, hence the priority on air defenses, intelligence sharing, and diplomacy led by Qatar. Final assessment. Iran's June 23 missile strike on Al-Udeid was 1. A deliberate and controlled response to U.S. airstrikes. 2. Meant to demonstrate capability without triggering war. 3. A signal to both regional allies and adversaries, showing deterrence potential. What happens next hinges on two main factors. Sustained diplomacy. The ceasefire must be backed by meaningful talks. Future actions. If another strike occurs, a spiral becomes likely. Both Iran and the U.S. appear to be choosing calibration over confrontation, but entrenched tensions, proxy forces, and regional instability mean the situation remains volatile.